good evening, wherever you're at, and I'm here with another video. This particular video is a topic that hard to explain to people that do not understand program in details. Those that might have not monitored a project before that was a programming project might have actually different understanding of you what's in reality is actually happening behind the scenes. I will try to actually explain it, and hopefully I'll explain it in a way that you guys can actually understand it. It's not going to be just a waste of your and my time. So let's begin. When you have a program, and usually the original developer that developed the program, he might have developed himself or he developed with a team. If it's a good developer and he monitored the whole project from the beginning to the end, you're usually not going to find a lot of glitches. And the glitches that are found most of the time, if it's a good, if it's a bad, then it's a nightmare from the day one. But if it's a good developer, he knows how to monitor his project. He'll go in, he'll fix issues, or he'll know exactly who on the team did whatever, and then will fix. They'll observe, test, and usually deliver a product with very minimum or zero problems to begin with. Then a customer comes in, he's like, oh, we want to make some changes. We want to change this, we want to change that. And that's where sometimes problems might start. If a change is very simple, like changing an image, there will be no problems down the road. Because, you only changed the name of the image, and you uploaded the image, or you deleted the old image and replaced it with a new image with the same name, and that's it. And that's probably the most wisest way to do. And then, hope that the customer phones will update eventually. And to force an update on a cell phone, you do a forced restart of the phone, and that also will force to update that cache. Now, let's say we wanted to change something. Let's say on DOORDASH, we wanted to change a payment processor. So instead of going to Stripe, which my understanding, that's who the DOORDASH is going through, and that's my understanding that today is the only company that's big enough that handles that much of volume and processes payments into various different accounts at once. I know PayPal does something similar to that, but they have limitations, and the only customers PayPal will actually consider are actually customers that already have a client base, have a volume producing, and you have to have a certain amount of volume before they even consider you as a customer, because there's a lot involved when it comes down into changing a payment processor. So now, changing a payment processor can be quite simple if the software was designed in a way to actually change a payment processor. But let's say somebody built a software from ground up, and they built in a way where only one payment processor was actually used, and he hard-coded the whole payment processing system. Now to change a payment processor involves a lot of, it's like the web, you know? You have a lot of streams going in every different directions, and now you have to go through, oh, it's icy here. You have to go through, man, guys, it's 27, it was 21 just a couple of minutes ago. I think where I live, it's colder than as I go up to Lexington. But so right now he has to actually go and rebuild the whole engine of payment processor, change every single direction that it might be attached to make it work, and then test, fix, test eventually until it works. So you know, and I'm talking about payment process that actually most programs try to do it in a way where it's going to be easy change, and actually can become a nightmare. Now, I want you guys to kind of explain a little bit in different form. Let's say you have a jacket, and you need to increase that jacket by 10% in size. So you're going to go get material. Now you're going to take that jacket apart, and you're going to increase every single piece of the jacket by 10%. But if you somewhere you mess up and you start sewing that new jacket together, it will become visual where you messed up. Now, do you have to increase everything on the jacket in 10%? Some things you do not have to, like, you know, buttons, pockets. Those things you can leave still the same size. But then you have to compensate the openings, you know, for the pockets, all that. Then you know, have to, you know, make sure that everything will line up, and you do not have issue when you actually start sewing the jacket together. Same thing with the programming. You have various, and if you start making a change, you need to make sure that every single piece, like that puzzle, when you start making some changes to the puzzle, you want to make sure that all the pieces will actually work afterwards. What else I can actually, you guys do know those square, I don't know what they're called, where you kind of, you know, churn them different directions. And you know, you have one side green on the other side, white on one side, red and yellow. So you have 6 sides, and you kind of, you know, turn and twist it until all colors match on each side. Just imagine you took that apart. You took the colors off of them, and then you start taping colors wherever you just wanted. And then you put it together. And let's say on one side it's red, on the opposite side is blue. But you actually put red and blue on same 2 pieces. Now you will never ever be able to actually get that I'm not sure what that's called, together. Because colors right now messed up to a point of not possible exchange. Same thing with programming. When you start actually just doing it without thinking through every single stage of process, you know, every single step, what does it interact with? What is it attached to? How many different places is being attached to? How is those places will be impacted by this particular change? If you don't start thinking of all these areas when you're actually doing a change, end of the day, it's just going to fail. You will not be able to launch that new version of an update and have it be successful working. That's why, you know, sometimes companies try to fix one thing and they might fix that issue. But because it is attached to so many different areas in the programming, now it's impacting other areas. And you know, We can actually say same thing, in business and everything. But at least in business, you see visually. When it comes down to programming, you have to see it in your mind, and then you have to go to the hardware, to the computer, to the program software that you're writing the program on, and then adjust those things there. And if the people cannot see it in their mind to every area where it's attached to, how can they actually fix it on the computer? I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job trying to explain that. But at a certain point, the company realizes that alterations, adjustments are becoming no longer a reality. And then they start building a new app from ground up. Now, somebody mentioned about, but there's so many different phones and this and that. There's two ways that programs are being built. Apps are being built. One, let's say for an Apple and Android, they're building in an adapter, and the app itself is kind of like a browser based, and then that adapter actually makes that app compatible with your Apple phone and the actual app. Now, then the second app, and the same thing with the Android. They build an adapter, and then and that goes to the main app. So it's a one app of the developed, but there's an adapter for each phone to make it compatible and communicatable with that particular phone. Then there's another way that apps are built, is where apps are built specifically for Android. And then, of course, you have various different Androids, but they all have, operating system, whatever that version of the system is. That's why at a certain point, certain versions of Android no longer supported. Sorry, and the roads are not the most exciting as well. So second version where they actually build the phone from ground up for Android, one version app, then for the Apple another app. And then what they actually do is make them compatible by versions, creating adapters for those versions, which include package of photos and so on and so on. So those are way that done. So the main software might not, most likely do not change. The only change is actually conversion kits for different type of phones to actually work on that phone. Sometime I have also seen programmers where they'll split an app and create, so let's say for 10.0 Android, they'll do the updates, but anything lower than 10.0, leave the old app. They'll clone the app and start working on a 10.0 adjustment. But anything below 10.0, there's just not going to be any updates coming in, and it's going to be just as it was. So I've seen those things as well when it comes down into development of apps. It's just a lot of things I can talk about that area. I'm not a programmer, or let's say I know basics of programming. I can do some basic things in programming field. Not much in apps, because apps are a little bit more complicated. And I tried, and every time I tried, I had it go. as they couldn't picture under which the app was even written up by the designer. So that's why, some people say, oh, just go get a new team of developers. Guys, we all have our own signature when we write, right? So is programmers have their own signature when they code. And if you cannot figure out because you can write the code in many different ways. First of all, there's many different codes out there first to be written in. And then in addition to that, the programmers like to mix codes together of different strings. And the code can be written in many different ways. That's why when you get a new team, the team has to first figure out how the programmer, the way he even thought of as he was writing that code. You have to figure out his mind, how his mind is being wired, how he transferred whatever it was in his head into a computer, into the code. And not a lot of programmers can actually do that. Not a lot of programmers can actually figure out the code. Plus, it takes a couple months, maybe even a year or two, to even figure that out. And only then can actually that programmer, that developer can actually go in and start making successful changes and fixes. Now, can you tell me a company out there that actually understands that concept, willing to get somebody on a payroll, so they can actually sit for a year? Hopefully, they will figure out that code, how the code was written, so then they can actually go in and do some successful changes. Now, as I talked with, in program right now, we're going to go directly with DoorDash. Personally, my opinion is, first of all, in any company out there that is a software company, one of the either board of directors, owners, or somebody that very well compensated were the original person who started with the company and stays with the company to make sure that all adjustments, all changes to the app are done, and they're the original designer of the app or the program. Now, when you go out and have somebody build a program for you, now you need to figure out a way, sit down and talk with those developers and say, hey, what is going to cost a company on a monthly basis or on an annual basis for the next 5 years for you guys to support us, or the next 10 years for you guys to support us? When I built the Yay Driver app, that is the question I asked. What it would be a 5 years, what would cost a 5-year support? They said, hey, until you financially get there, we don't want to even talk on that subject, but there's something, but we will try to be available to fix whatever the problem it has. But there is only one condition: as long as we do not lose more than 40% of our developers. And my question, why do you mean? And that's what, when I started learning things, guys, it's not something that I just woke up and I knew. And he says that if we lose more than 40% of the developers, we will start losing the key people who actually knows the program when they wrote it. And by replacing those people with new people, they do not know the code, they do not know how the code was written, and they are useless on our old projects. So that is actually the reality of even, you go third party, you buy an app that actually built, they're going and they're reselling that app, that same app to let's say 300 people, only maybe 2 or 3 people successfully actually launch that app, because everybody else does not even have enough of knowledge. It's not about just buying the app, it's about finalizing that app to your business needs. And that's where majority people actually fail when it comes down to getting an app off the ground. When you go with these guys that actually have an app that they designed, but of course they design it for resale, and then you have to go in, you have to write terms and conditions, you have to replace the images, you have to pay them to do some adjustments to your business needs, and in my case, with the Yay driver, as well as with this project that I'm with this delivery app that I'm thinking of, restructuring the app completely. Now you're actually having only a certain few people, in addition to what was built, certain few people actually going in and actually changing the app to a point of rebuilding some skeleton area. Now those people are becoming the key to your company, and making sure that those people are taken care of at the company they're at while you're raising funds, and then figuring a way how to actually even have them work for you, or compensating that company well so they can compensate those particular programmers well, so they can be available when you need to do changes. Now, in addition to all that, as you do know, everything evolves. That means an app that actually was built a year ago, a year later might need to be upgraded, or just to be compatible to the platform that it's on. Like Android. Android requires every app that is 2 years or older, it needs to be updated, or they'll actually remove it off the platform, because that might not be compatible with the most newest technologies just came out. And that's why Android has that requirement. Every 2 years, app has to be brought up to the latest in order to be continue to be on the platform. So a lot of things happening behind the scenes, guys, and even if it raised $1 million for DoorDash wouldn't be able to fix the problem. Even $1 billion if we raised for DoorDash, they still would not be able to fix the problem unless they go to the root, get rid of the people that actually useless on the development team, get rid of the development manager of the app if he's useless, and then hopefully find that original developer and put him behind the wheel of the project. Because otherwise, if these things are not going to happen, they might as well start a new app. And if they not going to start a new app early enough, the app that they have will eventually just destroy them. Like I already said in my previous video, DoorDash started going down the path of self-destruct. And they're not making the right decisions. And they're not going to make another right decision by fixing their development team, finding the original developer of the project. And because right now there's so much of patches and layers on top that they actually did changes of, that old developer might actually even be useless at this point. And new one is useless because we see that he has issues actually launching, just updating an update, so it actually can easily work on the platform. So guys, it's not an easy task, and in programming you can do so many patches until those patches are starting corrupting itself, because code at certain point are becoming a somewhat a living organism. And when code does not stops being compatible with a certain thing, the programmer just will glitch and move on, or glitch and fail, and you have to reboot your phone. But when you start, putting patch on top of the patch, and not addressing some of these small, tiny glitches, eventually you start having, too many glitches. And then, you have too many glitches, it becomes a one big problem. But for programmers to go fix it, they're not fixing just one big problem, because remember, too many glitches became that one big problem. But now they have to go back and actually figure out where the glitches, those tiny glitches are at, where they're coming from, fix those glitches, and hopefully that when they're fixing all those glitches, it doesn't impact the whole system to a point where the whole system comes down. So, I don't know, I spoke a lot, but how much of that made sense, I'm not even sure. What's going on here? People have buy these cars, and these cars break on the road. They go in a safe mode, and everybody wants to get to work, and the guy is moving at 15 miles an hour because your car will not drive any faster because it went into a safe mode. So guys, we can argue on this topic as much as we can, but at the end of the day, all this just one question stands: can DoorDash pull a rabbit out of the hat with an existing app? Very little likely. Especially, it's a very, very complicated, very, very sophisticated app, guys. It's a multiple apps within one system. You have driver's app, customer app, restaurant app, customer service side, developer side. There might be actually two versions of the restaurant app. It's just a lot of, fingers in multiple directions that all come down to the one hand. It's just a complicated platform, and it's not going to be easy to, to just get off the ground to actually build a new one. And here's another trick that I'll tell you guys. You hire 10 different teams of developers to rebuild from ground up an app for DoorDash. Only about 3 teams out of the 10 teams will be successful. All the remaining 7 teams, they will never be able to complete that skeleton. I'm not talking about completing where everything works. Just completing a skeleton so it actually properly communicate with every single finger, and every single finger move properly without putting, the meat on it, and, all the good stuff on it. That's how bad it is in development world. I went through a lot of developers trying to build a project, trying to put together developers so we can start building a project for the previous company that I worked as a CEO for. As the guy that I actually took his business out of the garage and convert what it is and was. He wanted a competition in certain way to Amazon and eBay, and it was challenging to find a team. And when I found a team, I went with programmers from India, programmers from Russia, Ukraine, some country I don't remember. It was kind of weak country. No, not one of the common countries. And all of these places, they even said no completely, or they couldn't actually build me a skeleton for the project. Now, I found a team in Belarus that actually said they would actually be able to do it. They did a test project, which was not that particular project, but I had another project. They did a test project for me, and they did it, without any flaws. It's just the test project cost an arm and a leg, and when we started talking about this project that we wanted to build, it actually numbers went into almost $1 billion, and that was outside of the budget, even though we still considered it because those are the only people that actually could handle the project we needed to handle. So, but what I'm trying to say is it's not easy to find good quality programmers. It's not like going out and finding a driver to drive. It's a lot more harder. There's so many programmers out there, but then majority of programmers are specialized in a certain thing, doing a certain portion, and then assembling those programmers. And then a lot of them, they're self-taught. They do not know. It's just not easy. Let's put it this way, guys. I've been babbling, and I'm not sure if I'm doing you guys any good justice. But I'm already pulling up to Lexington. Need to go and do some dashing. It is 8:56. Wow, that's probably the earliest I got to Lexington in a long time. So, guys, be blessed. For those of you that maybe make some sense when you go back, watch it again. But for the rest of you guys, let's just put it this way. That's why they're getting paid a lot of money, because it is a unique field, and there's the best of the best, and those best of the best are the only ones can deliver something very complicated like a DoorDash app. So, take care, be blessed.